I never studied fashion. I come from a fashion background, but it was never a degree. I didn't want to be a parasite on the industry. I really wanted to know if I had something or it was just like a fantasy world.
Pivoting to fashion from the whole different career, I mean, that is a very, strong choice.
It wasn't my choice to start with. It was actually a very organic move. I quit the marketing and branding and advertising industry without thinking about what my next step would be. I just bought the fabric and I started producing without receiving the OCB.
No.
And they disappeared on me. And that was a big slap where I was like, this is never gonna happen again. I need to be an independent brand. I need to create my success story without having to depend on any retailer.
There's a certain kind of designer who doesn't just make clothes, she builds a world. Mariam Yeya, the French-Egyptian force behind the fashion label Mrs. Keepa, does exactly that. What began as a ready-to-wear brand with a cult-like following has now evolved into an international label known for its eclectic silhouettes, impeccable tailoring, and some serious statement shoulders.
What do you want to achieve with this brand?
I'd be lying if I tell you I don't want every person to know who Mrs. Keepa is.
Okay.
It's really something that gives you validation that your work is seen and loved.
Just are you able to give yourself, a pat on the back?
This is a very, very important and sensitive question because
Thank you so much for doing this. I wore my shoulder pads just
you're
for you.
so prepared. I wore the biggest one just to defend myself.
You don't need to defend yourself. I promise I'll be nice. But so I do want to ask that first hard-hitting questions, which is, what's the story with the shoulder pads? Like, where does this come from? Is it all about strength and protecting yourself?
Actually, yeah, it's a very personal story. So since I've been designing, this is how it all started. I've been designing for myself before I even started the brand. And as my body silhouette, I've always had a wider hip and a very small shoulder. So I always felt that it made my body and my looks reflect more proportionate outcomes. So it started that way. And then it became a thing in the brand and people really liked how it's like empowering it is. And since 2016, it didn't leave any of my collections.
You started the brand almost a decade ago, but you really did a hard pivot into fashion. You really had a successful career in marketing and communication. What was that moment of transformation and pivoting do for you? What did it teach you about risk and identity?
Pivoting into fashion.
Yeah, pivoting into fashion from the whole different career. I mean, that is a very, strong choice.
It wasn't my choice to start with. It was actually a very organic move. I quit the marketing and branding and advertising industry without thinking about what my next step would be. And it was in my honeymoon. So it was just like really an impulsive decision where I was just like, you know what? I don't think the new chapter aligns with the work that I've been doing. It was like, I'm a workaholic. I used to work 24/7 and I felt that I was done with this chapter. So I was in the streets of Florence with my husband and I saw this fabric shop where I just kept on staring at the vitrine. And I was just like, every time my husband would tell me, let's go, I was like, wait. And I didn't know why I was just staring. And I walked in and I started to ask about fabrics and stuff. And that was just like a moment in the honeymoon. After we're done, and the resignation thing happened 2 days after this moment, I was like, oh my God, what's happening here? I'm coming back to Dubai. And you know how tough Dubai is. It's a place where you need to pay a lot of bills. And we're just starting our life. My husband as well at the time, he was just starting his media agency. So uncertainty was all over. And he's like, what do you mean? Fashion is next. I was like, why fashion is it? It's like, where did this come from? Everywhere we go, people stops you and ask you what you're wearing. And it's always something that you've upcycled or from a vintage store. So it's never a brand. It's always something that you had your input in. It's like, okay, dressing up and having an own style doesn't mean that I have something to offer. Cut story short, I was sitting there, thought about it for a couple of days. It's like, okay, let me check. I wanted to do it the right way. I never studied fashion. I come from a fashion background, but it was never a degree. So I said, I want to do it right, especially at the moment. That was in 2013. Everybody wanted to become a fashion designer. So I didn't want to be a parasite on the industry. I really wanted to know if I had something there or it was just like a fantasy world. So I checked online. I found that Ismod was just like maybe a few months fresh in Dubai. It's like, okay, that's a sign. I enrolled in a 1-year program. I started and I quit midway. I felt, you know what? I got the confidence that all teachers would tell me, and really align with my creative aspect. They've seen that I was really good in creating concepts. I wasn't amazing in sketching. I wasn't amazing with a machine, but it was always coming up with ideas and concepts and stuff that would challenge gravity, you know, like the ideas wasn't necessarily feasible, but there were ideas there. I was like, you know what, this is what I needed to know. And I quit and I started my own thing.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you went to
So there was no risk. To answer your question, to go back to your
for
question.
you, it felt like no risk. It felt like an organic continuation of who you were.
100%. I felt that it was a journey that I was enjoying. It wasn't a calculated step whereby I thought, oh my God, am I going to be good or not? I thought about all of that while I was taking steps. So when I was
So it felt not like a risk, and it felt completely part of your identity as well. So
it felt so
things.
natural, 100%.
I mean, that's an amazing way to pivot to a new, if it still feels organically part of yourself, but also organically part of yourself because you grew up around fashion to a certain extent.
100%.
Both your mother and your grandmother were designing clothing. Can you talk to me about what that was like, those first experiences with fashion, with textiles, like you were talking about?
So growing up in such an environment is the reason why I started late, because I was never overwhelmed or impressed with the world of fashion, because to me it was part of my life. Literally since I was like, my mom started since I was a little baby, but I witnessed that since I was 6. Like my memory would take me back to my mom on the dining table, cutting patterns every single day. She is creating something, whether for us as clothing or something for the house or for a curtain or so. To me, it was very, it's like cooking. It's like part of our la vie quotidienne, as we say. I was never overwhelmed when I saw campaigns later on. I was never impressed by, when I see people talking about craftsmanship and stuff, because I've seen her do it and so, how do we say, gracefully. That I didn't feel it was a topic. So
it didn't feel like a mystery. There wasn't this whole kind of fantasy about fashion.
There was no mystery. It was just like, for me, and I up till date, I say it's a piece of clothing that we create. I don't like the propaganda that is created around it. It's literally a piece of clothing that you're putting on to communicate who you are. And this is how I grew up. I saw my mom doing it. It wasn't a business for her. It was just like a passion. Same for my grandma. It was a mean, actually, because at the time, my grandmother was doing it for budget-wise. So I was never overwhelmed, and it helped me so much because it gave me this calm energy towards the industry.
Starting off. And then, so talk to me about those first pieces, that first collection when you're trying to build that identity of what you want this brand to be. And maybe before that, we can talk about that, but before that, I have to ask, or I want you to tell the listeners where the name comes from. It's such a great story, and again, talks about another family connection.
Okay, so hence my husband was the reason I started it all, and he is the person that is like, pink, you need to do fashion. His nickname is Keepa. So when we started dating, way before fashion, people called me Mrs. Keepa. This is when I used to work in the media industry. And my account on Instagram was Yeya. My name is Mariam Yeya. I've been living in Dubai for 20 years. So everybody around me, like my European friends and American friends, would find it hard to say the ha. So everybody called me Yeya. So I had an Instagram account with a decent amount of followers, just because people were I was like,
because you were always stylish. You always had a look, my dear.
Thank you. So overnight, I just changed the name. Maybe I had at the time 40,000 followers. I changed it from Yeya to Mrs. Keepa, which was a risk from someone that comes from a branding background. And you build followers based on a certain story. And my story was the Yeya story. But my sister has a brand and it's Maison Yeya. So I felt there was a bit of confusion, especially that we were not doing the brands together. It was not a collaboration or anything. So I felt this side as well, and I wanted to thank Bassel, and I wanted to start this journey, giving him credit where it's due. So the brand was overnight from Yeya to Mrs. Keepa.
And that's because he was a
goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper,
yeah,
okay.
In Lebanon, he's Lebanese, and people used to call him, in a slang language, Keepa. And people named me after him, Mrs. Keepa, when we were dating.
I love that story. It's adorable, and it really works. It's everyone can say it. It's unique.
I feel the rhythm works with the silhouettes.
Yeah, it does kind of.
There is
the
something
K and
about
the P and the
there's something about
Yeah, no, you're right. Visually, it works also with the silhouettes. Speaking of silhouettes, talk about those first silhouettes and when you're trying to come up with the codes of what you want to design that first collection. Talk to me about that experience.
That was a moment where like, okay, what's happening here? I did the smooth thingy. I know I'm starting the brand. I went to Première Vision to buy the fabrics. And it was literally, I felt I was that small in a huge world where I didn't know where I relate, where I belong, and if I belong. Again, imposter syndrome keeps on coming back and forth to really question why I'm in this journey. Especially that I left media, I was 30-year-old and I was very senior in what I was doing. So I'm back to being this little girl that is starting her career. Looking, and every time I stand in a booth, I didn't really feel that the fabric was talking to me until I found a booth where it was all vintagey vibe, very, you feel like it has been, even this fabric has been used in another life. And I stayed in this booth, and it was an agent, it was not a designer. So at Première Vision, you find suppliers that created the fabric and other suppliers that are agents for different designers. So I kept on choosing left, right, and center. I get the samples with me back in Dubai. Then you start doing your prototypes. Later on, you start making the order. And it was a complete coincidence that 90% of the fabric I chose was Japanese designers. I had no clue. So here's like, okay.
So that already became a guiding light for you.
And I had zero background because I'm just making the order. They don't tell you who the designer is because otherwise you would go directly with the
So you're doing it off of
source.
touch and pattern.
100%. And all of it was really eclectic, colorful, joyful, fun. Teddy bears, stars and hearts. So there was a very childish element towards the fabric I was choosing and a very vintage aspect towards it. So, and hence the DNA started really being there without me even deciding. Silhouettes, it was everything. It was volumes, it was structure because I don't do pattern myself and I moulage. So I would challenge the fabric. So after I received everything, I started to play with the fabric and I found that geometry is a main aspect in my designs. Again, something like that stayed with me for 9 years. You see it either in the lines, you see it either in the structure of the blazers. So it kept on coming all together without me even knowing what I was doing. Now, if I give it a description, it would be a way of living. The brand is about a joyful, careless, experimental way of living. There are no boundaries. There is no formula. I just like to enjoy the journey we're living that is called life in a very joyful, eclectic way, not caring what people would think, not caring if it aligns with the culture I live in. Like I'm Egyptian French, Saudi Turkish, lived in Egypt. I was not the same person as everybody around me, yet I dressed super differently and it was always unique in its own way. I came to Dubai, again, people would expect you to be talking in a certain way if you're coming from Egypt or if you're coming from Lebanon. I was not that persona. So even the way I dress and the way I offer my creations, it's about just let it be, you know? And I like my woman to decide who she's going to be in this chaos that we live in. So
yeah, it feels very much like you do have your codes, but it also feels like you're open to any woman coming in being part of the tribe.
100%.
That it's not that you want to keep that an open dialogue, that it doesn't feel too restrictive in its design.
Even in my creations.
Yeah.
So I find it very hard when you have to have, as you say, like in the fashion industry, everything has to come in codes. I find it so hard. I really find it hard. So the only thing I can say, there is colors, there is prints, there is, I experiment, but there are no, it's not a minimalistic brand for sure. I would say
what it's not. It's
yeah,
not
I can tell you what it's not. It's not a minimalistic brand.
So you mentioned 9 years. Next year is a decade.
It's a big year.
Yeah, it's a big year. Hitting a 10 years for any fashion brand is monumental because that's really says something. It shows you have staying power. It shows you have an audience. It shows you have return clientele. Have you been able to kind of, take in the fact that this is a real success, that you've really grown and that you've been able to accomplish this? Are you able to give yourself, a pat on the back, as it were?
If you like this conversation, well, then you clearly have got good taste. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and share the love. Because honestly, who wouldn't want a front row seat to fashion's best stories?
Well, this is a very, very important and sensitive question because where I am now, I'm overwhelmed. The brand has been running and I've been running after it. So I should be flattered. I should feel happy. Yet, this is not how I feel. I feel that being part of the successful fashion ecosystem is so tiring. And it's a bit frustrating because as a creative, you start losing yourself in the process. And this is something that I need to take a decision about very soon before I reach the 10 years because I've been doing things my way throughout. And I refuse to lose myself in the process. And it's a topic that I think everybody feel lonely in it. We're lucky to have a couple of colleagues in the industry where we talk about it. So do I feel successful? I'm so thankful to my journey. I'm so thankful to everything that I've been accomplishing in the 9 years. To my husband who has been there and he's my business partner, or not only as support, emotional support. Yet success for me is the peace of mind. And I don't have it at the moment.
That's very telling. What as you explore where you want to find that peace of mind,
the balance.
What
There's
comes
no
up
balance.
for you? How there's no balance.
There's no balance. I'm a mother of 2, working mother. I create 4 collections a year, the pres and the mains. I customize.
Yeah, you have the bridal.
I have the bridal and I have Keepa Creates, which is I added more logistics to what I already have on my plate, but this is where I started to find the balance because it takes me back to why I started it all. So
you add Keepa Creates, already your plate runneth over, as it were, with work, but you decide to add
my
this
escape.
because it becomes your escape.
It's my escape.
Okay. And talk to me more about what Keepa
So
Creates
Keepa
is.
Creates is the creative arm of Mrs. Keepa. So basically it's Mariam Yeya.
Okay.
So going back to my background about branding and marketing. So Keepa Creates is the creative arm that used to do everything for Mrs. Keepa in terms of content, in terms of campaigns, as well as collaborations with other non-fashion categories. Like we do fashion identities for F&Bs, for TVCs for brands. It can be real estate, it can be perfumes, it can be... So this is where I really feel the non-fashion boundaries where I can create an identity. And this is what I love the most, just like from an idea, getting an attire, a silhouette, a logo. So Keepa Creates is what really makes me feel balanced.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about work-life balance then. Is it getting funding in so you can have a larger team to take things off your plate? Is it stepping back and I'm not going to do bridal anymore? Or, I don't know, when you're thinking about how you want to make that work for yourself when you hit that decade?
I want to stop the race.
You want to stop the race?
I want to
look
say
like for
no
you?
to the race. I want to say no to the cycle where if we don't have a 50 look in every collection, then we are not worthy enough. I want to stop the cycle of, no, I don't need to do 4 collections. I can do 2 and I can have my drops that you can see craftsmanship more with small. This is how it all started.
What do you think about that? I mean, there are a lot of brands, especially the direct-to-consumer, that prefer they do a build-up and they do a drop as opposed to...
This is how it started.
This is one of the questions I wanted to ask you about that you did direct-to-consumer before starting to go into some, retail partnerships. And that idea of drops is a really...
Creates loyalty. Because if you build a community, you want the community to keep on coming back and forth. You want them to really think of you as their first resort. But if you are stuck with producing a lot of quantities for retailers where you're really not able to give it a thought, because let's be honest here, creativity and attention to details and coming up with a concept, it's not an overnight job.
No.
It's something that you really need to be in a good place to be able to really deliver and be honest and genuine in your offering. So to be the businesswoman and the creative and the customer service, which I love every aspect of it, don't get me wrong. However, it needs to slow down. If I want to do it all, and I want to do it all. I love every aspect of my business. I love my relationship with the retailers. They are friends, we know each other. We talk about the buying, we talk about the selection. Same for my clients. I service my clients. No matter how big my team is, I'm still the person that likes to go and bend down and do the length of the denim myself.
Yeah.
I like to know the energies. I like to know why they are here and wearing from Mrs. Keepa. I wait for every client. If I don't receive a message that tells me how they felt, I feel like this sale was not a success. This is something I'm keen to do. And with the business growing, this is what I'm telling you. It's beautiful.
You want everybody who's buying one of your pieces from Unas
to tell
or
me
from
how
that
they
concept
felt.
store to
I
like send you a message?
And I'm getting it.
Yeah?
And I'm getting it. And this is where I got goosebumps. This is the reason why I started it all,
Talk to me about one of the times when someone reached out to you. What is a comment or message that somebody sent you that moved you, that sticks in your mind as something that motivates you on those
takes us to one comment. It's the feeling they get. It's empowering. They feel something that they've never felt before, which is the attention they get. It's a confidence. And my clients, by the way, are two different type of clientele. There is a woman that is super confident in what she wears. She knows what she wants. She would come, it's like, I want this and that, and she knows how to style it. And another woman that really has no idea about what it is to have a fashion identity. And she feels my piece would help her and would break the ice, So it's either a super confident woman or a woman that is really insecure. There is no in between. And I was the two women myself.
So one using it as an armor and the other.
Yes, and I was the two women. And this is how I knew. Part of my life growing up, I was the one that didn't care about anyone or any opinions or anything. Same, the persona that I was in the media. I was so young, very senior position. I was super confident because this is what I studied. This is what I knew best. And then there is that persona that came when I started fashion. I needed an armor. I started the big glasses. And the shoulder pads are questionable. Maybe it was
part of that armor.
100%. So I know exactly how they feel. So for them to feel the outcome, which is either the expectation of buying a piece from Mrs. Keepa, the fashion-forward woman, which it aligns with what she wants, or the insecure woman that would feel very confident and she would want to come back for another piece.
I know we were talking, and I want to circle back to this, the whole idea of D2C. You started with D2C, you built up your loyal following, and now more recently you've started collaborating with like Unas and that concept store. You're sending out pieces that, let's be honest, need to be more commercial to a certain extent.
100%.
How is that changed? Because it's also going to change the amount of, buy. You're going to have a lot more things that are going to be sold maybe in that vein that are more quote unquote commercial as opposed to the more creative things. How are you feeling about that? I'm sure it's exciting to see those sales, but that dichotomy.
It took me so long to accept.
Really?
It took me so long. So how it started the strategy for the B2C came from a trauma. I had a buyer, a very big buyer, came and that was my very first collection, placed a huge order. And for some reason, there was some changes of management. I was super excited about, oh my God, I'm going to be stocked in this place. I'm a new designer. Another huge. So I went ahead with no safety. I just bought the fabric and I started producing without receiving the OCB.
No.
And they disappeared on me. And that was a big slap where I was like, this is never going to happen again. I need to be an independent brand. I need to create my success story without having to depend on any retailer. So it didn't start as a strategy, to be very honest. It was a reaction to something that happened. And it was my main focus, which is to build a community for the brand. And I was so lucky that this happened with me because it was the best decision. For 8 years, all our focus was we've invested on having our own space. It was not an online business because with Mrs. Keepa, you need to start getting familiar with the brand. It's a story. Now it's no longer my baby where I can sit with everyone and tell them what the story is about and why the silhouette biscuit. It's a big world.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you would be a bit confused if you don't know. Like if you don't see the setup, the vibe of the atelier, you would like, if a retailer just take it, especially the pieces that are very B2C, Mariam, the close to my heart. If you put it in the wrong environment, you would be a bit confused.
Sure.
It's a story.
Sure.
So 8 years, main focus, building a community. The brand reached a place where I needed this credibility card because it is what it is. If you're not having scalability, if you're not in with the biggest retailers, it means
you're not a serious player.
You're not as serious. Yeah. And this is when we opened the door for the B2B. That was 2 seasons ago. And back to the very first buying, it was them changing all the color palette of my silhouettes. And I was a bit confused. I matured as a designer, as a businesswoman, that this is the way it works. As long as you're not compromising on the DNA, meaning it's a good bouquet that you're satisfied, and it would still, if you take it and put it under your main collection and it sees the runway and it still feels like Mrs. Keepa, then it's not a compromise. So what I refuse is for someone to just take a full black and white without even having a flavor. So luckily, the buyers that we're working with are amazing. I understand the challenges that the fashion industry is going through right now. And I understand that people are safer when it comes to having a product online, that you need to speak to a bigger audience. So we all understand the game now. So now I accept it. I like the challenge. I actually like to be like, it's part of the exercise that I do with every collection is, okay, I understand this is going to B2C. This is going to be a bestseller. So it became like, I like the challenge now.
Oh, so the challenge of making something that's,
Still
to use a
Mrs.
bad word, commercial, but something
But
that
still I like it.
but still feels part of who you
the
are.
The brand and the DNA. You feel like there is no compromise here.
What you mentioned, the current state of fashion. How are you feeling it? I mean, there's huge transformations in the bigger houses right now. There's serious pulling back by huge fashion conglomerates. You as an independent, how are you being impacted? How are you feeling about it all?
Actually, I feel that there is no middle class anymore. I feel that the basket at the beginning as a brand, you try to address everyone. So you're trying to address the person that has an average salary. You're trying to address, especially we're not cheap. We are a designer brand. So every piece is produced in-house. Every piece has handwork in it. So the cost of the piece itself,
It's an investment.
It's an investment. So I would see my clientele that wouldn't be able to afford a lot of pieces from the brand. They would come on a monthly basis, get the piece of the month or the piece that is going viral. Recently, you would feel that this category has been more conservative about their spending, but you would feel that people with bigger budgets are having higher baskets. So there is a shift. And I think we're lucky in this category of business because people want servicing, people want a personal story, people don't want just another product because
Why do something that everybody else has?
It doesn't add anything, whether some cannot afford, and for another people that they just don't want to have. People are aware of sustainability as well. Now you can feel that there is this mentality of, no, I want to buy a piece with a story. I want to know how it's made. So we're lucky that we're doing it the authentic way. I feel sorry for people that just jumped on fashion for the sake of, remember the COVID days that just let's do loungewear.
Yeah.
If you're in it for the wrong reason, I don't think you have a space. Unless you're the very super fast fashion. And we're talking the category of a 10 dirham t-shirt.
Yeah, something that you wear
working.
twice, never wash and throw it away.
This works. But the brands that are just another offering, I don't think there is a space for it anymore. Or for overpriced pieces that are not justifiable.
Agreed, 100%. You mentioned sustainability. When I came and visited your studio, everything, all of the furniture, everything's been upcycled and reimagined and painted. And I know the fashion, the fabrics that you're using, you're very careful with your fabrics and your choices and how you're reimagining them as well. Sustainability is really, it seems to be a cornerstone to what you do. But can you talk to me about the importance of that in your own words?
Again, it's just an organic step. Maybe it's the first time I talk about it. Not a lot of people knows about the Mrs. Keepa world. What they see is what they see. It's just like on social media, whether the campaigns. I believe it's a responsibility on every person that creates anything, whether it's in the business of fashion or in the business of interior design. It's like having a value or not having a value. So mass production it's basically just like you aligning with people in the real world where you feel your energy is really aligned because they come from the same ethical and cultural background. Same for fashion. People that talk a lot about it, I really doubt their intention because this is not a topic. It's like you coming into a room saying, "Hi, my name is Jessica and I'm very kind." You don't introduce it this way. It's either you do it because you believe in it or you don't do it and you don't talk about it. So has been part of the journey. Again, organic. I wouldn't take credit for it. I was raised this way. I was raised to see that my mother is very careful with the fabric she's buying because she's only making one piece to me and my sister. So she doesn't...
No extra.
No extra, no waste. The reason she was doing it was for economic reason. So already I know the value of waste. Her doing it, not taking it to tailor and just spending unnecessary money. So already the concept of it was all organic and warm.
And ingrained into your DNA.
100%. So, and maybe this is why I didn't talk about it. You know what I mean? Because again, I didn't see that there is no other way.
Yeah, it just was naturally this, and you didn't see it as anything special because it just was.
And even this relationship you have with your colleagues, I call them, they are part of our family. If I have a client and it's a deadline, if I don't have this relationship with my employee who has become part of my family and he feels the pain I'm in, that it's a deadline and I'm not sleeping and I'm leaving my kids, it becomes, for me, pointless, to be honest.
You mentioned earlier that your husband works with you, that you're partners in this business. What is it like working with family? I know that everybody is part of your family, but your husband working, 24/7, working with you. What does he do, and what is his role, and what is it like again working with someone that you love?
Okay, so it started very easy at the beginning, very easy and very smooth because it was all about creating and people liking what they are seeing. I got people like media talked about it, so he was so trusting my journey and what I was doing. Until one day he's like, okay, the numbers are not adding up. So we need to sit and talk. And this is when he started to get involved because the investment we were putting, so yes, there was still a lot of demand, but we started to put more investment than the input. So
more money going out than coming in.
100%.
Yeah.
Which is any entrepreneur's worst nightmare. So for me, it was like, I refused this conversation. I totally refused it. It's like, I'm just creating and people are liking it and people are buying it.
So what's the problem?
What's the problem? It's like the problem that we just have this new showroom in one of the most prestigious places in Dubai and we need to make the numbers really add up. And this is when you start strategizing for your creations. It was so hard for me. So hard to say, okay, now I need to do evening because evenings there is a higher price ticket. And when I started to put things into an Excel sheet, it was like, I started to hate what I was doing.
Yeah, you lose the soul of it, the creativity.
I felt I went back to corporate life. It took me a while till I accepted and I felt, you know what, it's part of the journey. And creation without
you can't have a business. Yeah,
it doesn't work. It becomes a hobby.
Business of fashion.
So he taught me. I really matured up throughout the journey, and it was all me not making sense. It's just like me, this passionate girl that wants to create. And no, now I like to talk business. Now I like to understand business, and I read every article that I see about business of fashion because there is so much joy when you still feel like be very stubborn about your vision and make it work. So this is now the formula. It's like I'm super stubborn about my vision and I'm making it work.
Do you guys have a cutoff?
So we fought a lot.
So you fought a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have a cutoff for no talking about work at home, or is it you're just always bouncing off of each other?
It took so long for us to reach this formula. It was hard for him. I'm the person that disconnects. I can disconnect very easily from any stressful situation. It was so hard for Bassel to really go back home and say, okay, khalas.
We're going to be with the kids. We're not going to talk work.
It took us a while. It took us a lot of decisions, a lot of therapy, a lot of crying, a lot of panic attacks. We've done the whole 9 yards, but now we're really
knock on wood. Absolutely.
We got the formula, yeah.
That's good to hear. I'm happy to hear it. When Arab Fashion Week back in the day and now Dubai Fashion Week and the Arab Fashion Council all kind of came up, my understanding is that you were a little reticent about these kind of group activities in the fashion space. Can you explain to me why you were keeping a little bit of a distance from those organizations when they first started coming into vogue and really wanting to support regional designers? What was that hesitation about?
I felt it was a phase of trial and error from everybody. I didn't really believe in the ecosystem. And for someone that really put all her heart and all her money in something where I promised myself that there is no room for error, at least from whatever I can control. So I felt, why would I put the brand at risk? I felt that there was no initiative that really aligned with whatever I was doing. There is no right or wrong. Again, it's all a question of DNA and alignment of how you want to do things. For me, a runway is such a serious topic. It's not something that I would take lightly and say, you know what, let me take shoes from here and there and go do shoe shopping if it's not aligned and I don't produce shoes. Same for the models. I couldn't afford to get to fly models. So if I don't find that the models offered are really international standard, and when we say international standard, but because again, there is a certain way that globally would be accepted and seen as you are.
There are those quiet codes that nobody talks about if you don't have the right models, if they don't walk right.
You would see your creation like it will be under the wrong light. Plus, there were a couple of incidents from some platforms where it was complete personal agenda. It was not about the designers. It was not about the way forward. It was complete propaganda about who they are as co-founders. And I've lived it myself. It's not someone that told me a story. And that was the first time where I really opened my ears. I was like, okay, let me listen. And it was shocking. So for the longest period, I felt, you know what, those initiatives are not really here for the right reasons. And the ones that are here for the right reasons, they are finding a lot of challenges until I've met with AFC. And honestly, I was resistant at the beginning for a couple of years because, again, I was judging the book by its cover. But after I got into more personal relationship with the co-founders, I found that there was a lot of effort put behind the initiative and the intention was great. And I felt I have a responsibility